doing a lot of things to lose.
Good morning and welcome to Worldwide Wisdom. Today we're learning about a labor of love. Today we're learning about a labor of love, and I want to share with you what it says in Ethics of the Fathers. Have you ever read Ethics of the Fathers? This is unbelievable stuff. You should check it out. It's in this blue sitter over here. If you go to the blue sitter, anytime you board in shul, you can go to the blue sitter, and you just go to page 271. Is that it?
271.
Yeah, 271. Good. Well done. On page 271 is here's what it says. I want to share with you what it says in the Ethics of the Fathers about labor, the workforce. Here. It says, said Rabbi Gamliel, the son of Rabbi Yehuda the Prince, it is good to combine Torah study with an occupation, for the effort required by them both keeps sin out of mind. While all Torah study not combined with work will in the end cease and lead to sin. All who occupy themselves with the affairs of the community shall be engaged with them for the sake of heaven. For the merits of their fathers assist them, and their righteousness endures forever. And upon you, says God, I will bestow great reward as though you had accomplished it all by yourselves. I mean, lots to unpack over there, but the one part I want to focus on is where it says that any Torah which is not associated with an occupation is doomed to fail. Can anybody tell me what you think that means? What does that mean? Any Torah that's not associated with an occupation, what?
You have to bring Torah into your business.
Torah into your business. So you have a business. You're an entrepreneur. You're whatever you are, right? And you have to bring Torah into your business. Otherwise, the Torah study will not endure. I mean, I can understand if you say that the business won't endure. But why do you have to say that the Torah won't endure? What do you think it means? Has to be applied. Seriously, do you know people that study Torah without having a job? So what's the problem?
They're at the kollel.
They're in the kollel. What's the big deal? Those are the guys that are studying Torah day in and day out. I want to tell you, we have a bookkeeper here at the Chabad, lives in Israel, and she's a woman who's extremely talented, very capable. Her husband studies Torah all day long. And it's a labor of love. I mean, she wants to support her husband's Torah study. So he studies Torah. I don't know if he makes anything, but she, gets, a tremendous amount of work done. She helps a tremendous amount. Our community and whatever. She's a very, very talented person. And that's what she does. So he studies Torah day in, day out. Is this like a terrible thing that he studies Torah? Is that such a bad thing? That because he's not associating it with an occupation, therefore it's not going to last? What is that even supposed to mean? There are many Jews that study Torah without an occupation. Let me share with you the interpretation of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidus, who was born in the year 1698, and he passed away in the year 1760. He says something fascinating. He says that what it means that any Torah that has no occupation associated with it will not last, this is referring to the mitzvah from this week's Torah portion. The mitzvah which says, thou shalt not take revenge, and thou shalt not bear a grudge. You know what the difference is? Take revenge and bear a grudge?
One is action.
No, they're actually very, something I'll explain to you. Against your fellow Jew, and you shall love your fellow Jew as yourself. I am God. He says what it means, Torah study without an occupation. This refers to the mitzvah of loving your fellow Jew. He calls the mitzvah of loving your fellow Jew a business, an occupation. He calls the mitzvah of loving a fellow Jew an occupation. Now, let me just explain to you the difference between revenge and a grudge. Revenge and a grudge like this. When somebody comes over to you to ask you if you can borrow your car, and you say, of course you can borrow my car because I'm not like you when you didn't lend me your car last week, but I will lend you my car. That is a grudge.
Right.
Revenge is like, you want to borrow my car? No, because you didn't give me your car last time. That's why. That's revenge. Okay, so that's revenge and a grudge. They're both like a strong sentiment. He's got his own thing going on over there. Whatever. Thanks. So the Baal Shem Tov explains that occupation is referring to the mitzvah of loving your fellow like yourself. And the question is, what's the Baal Shem talking about? Why does he call the mitzvah of loving your fellow like yourself an occupation, a business? Now, to reinterpret, he says, when you read the mission and ethics of the fathers, it means anyone who studies Torah without an occupation of making it a business to love your fellow Jew, that Torah study won't last. So what's the comparison between Torah study and a business? Why this mitzvah being different to all other mitzvahs? That this particular mitzvah is singled out to be a business. Maybe charity should be a business. Maybe prayer should be a business. Why is this mitzvah a business? What does it even mean that this mitzvah is a business? The way the Rebbe explains it, Andy, is a little bit similar to that, along those lines. That what do you do in a business? A business is not something where you wait for something to happen. You don't open a store and sit there like this, waiting for customers to come in. You go out and you kill something and you bring it home. You put out ads and you make phone calls and you buy leads and you do SEO and websites and emails and marketing. And if somebody walks in and says, hi, do you sell jewelry? And you say, yes. Would you have ABC? And you wouldn't just say, no, jump in the lake. You would say, no, I'll get it for you. Well, tell me what you want. You make it a business. You get involved. You get a connection. You say, well, I don't have that, but I have this. And maybe I can help you with this and the other. And this is how you do business, right? You got to go out and really, you got to be proactive. The key word here is being proactive. As opposed to a W-2 employee. A salaried employee clocks in at 9 o'clock, clocks out at 5 o'clock. In, out, done deal, it's all over. The 1099 knows, the contractor knows that if he doesn't deliver, he's not gonna have a client anymore, right? Or the entrepreneur knows, he understands that I've got to be able to make business profitable, otherwise there's not gonna be any business.
So love your fellow is an active thing, not just a passive love and move.
That's exactly right. Loving your fellow Jew is not something that happens to you, reactive. It's something you have to actively be proactive about. In other words, you can't just say, I love all fellow Jews that agree with me. I love all fellow Jews that are like-minded individuals. That's not the way it's supposed to be. No. In other words, it's like a businessman saying, I will make money with anybody that buys exactly my product. Right? That wants exactly the color and the size that I have in stock, right? You can survive a business like that.
What I mean, if you active, meaning that somebody's got problems, so you love your problem person, the drug addict, the criminal, the whatever, you reach out, you fix them.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about.
That's the active part.
This is what I'm talking about. You go out and get him, right? In other words, not only a Jew that you disagree with, are you going to go out and try to make a relationship with them because you love them like yourself? But even a Jew who's got problems, the addict, the meshugane, the dreikup, the nudnik. We've got many, many words in Yiddish to describe all sorts of personality profiles. Many words, no shortage of words. There's the shmendrik, there's the kupdreyer. You know what kupdreyer is?
Yeah.
There's the kvetch. You know what the kvetch is? Mm-hmm. Complainer, yeah. Right? There's the nudnik, which drives you crazy. The shmendrik, the shlemazel, right? There's also these people, and you want to have nothing to do with them. No. You got to go out and get them. Now, I'm not talking about being a glutton for abuse. I don't believe that a person needs to be a glutton for abuse. Okay? In other words, if somebody is abusing you, then I don't believe that you actually need to be engaging with that person just so that they can humiliate you and drain you emotionally. They can fight with you. They can scorn you. They can minimize you. They can diminish your sense of self-worth. I don't believe that you have to be a glutton to go out and get them. Maybe somebody will disagree with me on this. I don't think so. I think with those kind of people, what you should do is just keep a safe distance. In other words, don't cut them off. Like in today's culture, if somebody disagrees with me,
cancel culture.
I'm not feeling safe anymore. If somebody criticized me, I don't feel safe over there anymore. No, this is not Judaism, man. Judaism is a culture of debate. Judaism is a culture of conversation. You open up the Talmud, it's 7,000 pages plus of argument after argument after argument. None of the rabbis of the Talmud were feeling unsafe. Okay? They were debating. That's how you create wisdom. That's how you create innovation. That's how you create the development and evolution of ideas. It doesn't happen by living in an echo chamber, burying your head in the ground, surrounded only by people that agree with you and support you. That's not how it works. But at the same time, to be a glutton for abuse, I don't believe is something which you should be doing. Encourage diversity, encourage conversation, encourage disagreement, right? But to say that somebody makes you feel unsafe just because they disagree with you, that's just pathetic, right? It's just, I don't have any other words to explain, that kind of position, which just doesn't make any sense. Sometimes people will take one look at me and they'll be like, they won't want to talk to me because they've already sized me up. They know who I am, what I believe, what I don't believe, what my convictions are. Come on, you're just putting me in a box. That's ridiculous. That is cancel culture, right? So when it comes to running a business, you got to be proactive, you got to be creative, you got to be courageous, you got to be dynamic, you got to be hardworking. All of those attributes is how you're supposed to invest in the mitzvah of loving your fellow Jew. Why? Because the mitzvah of loving your fellow Jew is probably the hardest mitzvah in the Torah.
I agree.
Oh, finally.
I agree.
It took 15 years for us to agree on something. Very, very happy to hear that. Thank you, Volvo. My response to you was case in point, by the way. Yeah, of course. It's easy to love the Jews that you like. It's easy to like the Jews that you agree. It's easy to love the Jews that you like. But it's much harder to love the Jews that you don't like.
What about pro-Palestinian Jews?
So what about pro-Palestinian Jews? It's a very good question. You know what my answer to you is? A pro-Palestinian Jew. Why is he pro-Palestinian? Tell me, why?
Because he's brainwashed.
Brainwashed. So what are you going to do? Can you unbrainwash a brainwash? There's no possible to unbrainwash? Really?
Of course.
Does everybody agree to that?
With enough time,
Can
anybody can.
convince you not to believe in kosher?
Hello, am I brainwashed? Are you suggesting that I'm brainwashed?
What I'm talking
There's a difference between faith and brainwash.
brainwashing
Well,
breeds
that's also-
convictions.
I want to explain to you something. No, I actually want to tell you why I disagree with it. I appreciate your point. My conviction is based on faith. Their conviction is based on reason,
No,
logic.
no.
Not?
Absolutely not.
It's a religion.
You think it's based on faith?
You can put any kind of facts in front of them. It will not.
Look, I want to make the following proposition, and it might fail. I don't know. I would say meet a pro-Palestinian Jew, invite him for Shabbos dinner, and don't engage in debate at all. Invite him for Shabbos dinner, have him taste your wife's challah and your wife's cooking and the atmosphere around your Shabbos table. Sing a song, discuss the Parsha of the week, discuss Judaism. Don't talk about Palestinians. And I believe, as a Chabad rabbi, let's not do this all day, every day. I believe that when you share the light, then the darkness dissipates all by itself. Now, I understand if you might disagree with that approach, okay? And there are some people that are so, as you describe, stuck in their ways. Yeah, you're right. It could be challenging to engage with those people. I agree with you.
I'm
But-
banking on you being right.
I hope I'm right. I already hope I'm right. Let me just wrap this up, folks, by just closing out with a few comments, okay? This is why the loving of your fellow Jew is a labor, is an occupation. It's a business. You got to look at it like a business. Be proactive. Don't wait until you encounter the few Jews that you like. Go out and get them. Kill something and bring it home. Make a relationship. Because there are Jews out there that are desperate for connection. And you know why they became pro-Palestinian? Because they feel that those are the only people that are going to accept them. There's an isolated Jewish kid whose parents didn't have the brain to send the kid to Hebrew school, to give the child a relationship with a rabbi and a rebbitzin, to give them any true Jewish values. So here they are stuck in college, and their Muslim boyfriend is telling them, brainwashing them about all sorts of narishkeit, about Erdogan's worldview, right? And now if you simply replace that with love, you give them a sense of connection to something meaningful and true, I believe that will, in fact, bring them back home. And I want to just conclude with a practical application. Sometimes you encounter a Jew and you want to help him, but you can't. You know why? Because you don't have the money. He needs your help. He needs a donation. He needs you to lend him something. And he's not here. You can't deliver it to him. So elsewhere in Ethics of the Fathers, it says, who is wise, he who learns from every single person. who is wise, he who learns from every single person. Because every single person is something to share, something to teach. So you can't give the guy money. Give him some wisdom. Give him something unique of your experience. Share them a story. Give him a little empathy. Give him a little love. Give him a little something, right? It doesn't have to be that you give him money. So like when somebody walks into your store and they want something and you don't have it, you don't just send them flying. You'll try to engage and offer them something else. And that's what you do with the mitzvah of loving your fellow Jew. He comes to you with one problem. You don't have the answer, so you give him something else. And I want to flip it around also. What happens when somebody's feeling like they don't have a sense of self-worth? Like they're in the hospital and they're very, very sick. And you come on in and, a lot of people don't know what to say. They're like, don't know what to say. They'd rather not visit. And the silence is deafening. More than the animus of your enemies, you remember the silence of your friends. So I want to encourage you to do the following. When you go and visit someone in the hospital and there's like nothing to talk about except for their life-threatening illness, remember that every single person has a unique light to share, a unique contribution to give to this world. Ask them about it. If the guy's a experienced radiologist who's dying from, I don't know what, pancreatic disease, talk to them about their profession. Talk to them about what they're good at. They don't want to be wallowing in darkness and despair and misery all day, and they don't want you to come in and perpetuate that misery. Talk to them about what they're good at. Ask them about it, things that they invented, about things that they innovated, things that they engineered, things that they designed, the connections that they made. Ask them about how they view. Ask them a question, about understanding how radiology works. I never understood how an MRI machine works. Do you mind explaining to me? And that way you can give them a sense of self-worth. This is deep empathetic ability. Where there's actually a story of one of the Rebbe's secretaries. His father was ill, and I think it was another one of the Rebbe's secretaries came to visit him, and he had a whole conversation with him about this kind of an idea. And the guy he wrote afterwards. He said that he was feeling so miserable, but when the Rebbe's secretary came and spoke to him about things that he had achieved in his life, he felt so good. He was reminded of his light, and he kind of found his way back to healing. So this is the message we learn from the Baal Shem Tov, that any Torah which has no occupation within it will not last. Torah needs to be associated with loving your fellow Jew as a business, as a proactive action, not something which you wait for it to come to you. You got to go out and get it. And with that approach, Torah study will be enduring. Your Torah study will be enduring. Why is it that your Torah study will be enduring? I think because when you take care of the needs of Hashem's children, then Hashem will make sure that the Torah study that you're learning will endure. Remember, Torah is Hashem's wisdom, right? Torah is Hashem's wisdom. So how can a human being retain infinite wisdom? When you care for Hashem's children, then Hashem will allow you to retain His wisdom, the gift. Beautiful. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day, and make it count. Did you see this article in the New York